The Memphis Grizzlies just became a massive problem for the entire Western Conference of the NBA and truly for the entire NBA in general. I think they are this year's biggest sleeper team. We're going to break that down and what they did in the draft and how that sets them up to truly make a run to win the Western Conference. Without a doubt, they could run away with it. If you're new to this channel, this is the Daily Huddle. Nate, Aaron, and myself break down all the biggest news in sports with a poppin' comment channel. So let me know what you think in the comments, and let's dive in. Helps us out a lot. We're just growing this thing if you like and subscribe. So just looking here, just like at the NBA odds to win the NBA championship last year, you were looking at the Memphis Grizzlies, who finished second in a loaded West the prior 2 years to Ja Morant's suspension for the crazy off-the-court stuff, and you are just completely seeing them being slept on in Vegas, and I'm not a betting dude, but look at how far down. You're talking 40-1 odds for them to win the NBA championship under all of these teams that they finished well above before Ja Morant's suspension. So you're talking just Ja Morant coming back with healthy legs, with the chip on his shoulder from not being on this year's Olympic team. Truly, he is probably the best American-born basketball player right now, although the conversation about Ja Morant has just completely dropped off. And then what do the Memphis Grizzlies go and do right now? They go out and they draft what I think is the absolute perfect fit and the missing piece that they need to not just finish second in the West. And I'm a massive Denver Nuggets fan, and so this hurts me to even say, but they draft the massive piece that could help them win the West this year. And we'll talk about how they match up with Eastern Conference teams. But with the 9th overall pick in the draft, they surprised a lot of people, and they went out and got 7'4", 300-pound Zach Edey out of Purdue. And I just think his matchup with the talent that they already have in Memphis with the Grizzlies is unreal. Obviously, you're talking a physical mismatch. And then if you get him on the court at the same time as you have NBA Defensive Player of the Year, multiple-time All-Star, first-team NBA defense, NBA block leader, Jaren Jackson Jr., I see this team being able to shut down centers. And I think we looked at Minnesota Timberwolves knocking out the Nuggets because of the Twin Towers. You're going to have a more athletic version of the Twin Towers than even Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns now with Zach Edey and Jaren Jackson Jr., and I think that makes them match up extremely well against the Minnesota Timberwolves. You now have whether or not they play Jaren Jackson at the 5 and let Edey, come in off the bench and then run center by himself, or if you stagger those guys out there at the same exact time. I just think this is a nightmare. If I am a Nikola Jokic, Aaron Gordon fan, and you're talking 7'4", that limits a lot of what Jokic can do. That's going to totally limit what Karl Anthony Towns can do offensively in the paint with this kind of size. And I think even what we saw from the Dallas Mavericks and their lob game, you shut that down. And so all of a sudden you already were the second best team in the West before the Ja suspension. And now you've gone out and gotten this dude who I think everyone has slept on. He's Canadian, and so maybe they aren't giving him the love that he deserves. But one of the most insane stats that came out about Zach Edey was he's 7'4", yet he won what in the NBA Combine is kind of like the 40-yard dash, or, like everyone talks about, he runs a 4.4 40. Look at who Zach Edey beat in the lane agility sprint time. He's faster than Pascal Siakam, who's crazy athletic. He's faster than Kawhi Leonard. And Steven Adams, who was the perfect fit for Ja, he's faster than as well. So obviously there's going to be some offensive growing pains, because I think what Ja Morant does best is handles the ball at the top of the key with a spread out, everybody on the wings, and then he can drive and dish when the lane collapses. And so offensively, you could see a world where there's going to be some problems there. And what I envision them doing is doing a Jamal Murray, Jokic pick and roll type situation with Ja Morant. And I think he would be deadly in that kind of situation. And so it's really cool to see. One of the ways you can tell if this was like, a GM or a coach loving a dude or the players loving a dude was it was almost unanimous last night after the pick that every single Memphis Grizzlies player tweeted just incredible amounts of love from him. From Jaren Jackson Jr. tweet, "Let's go." You had people doing the 3 salute emoji. Even Ja Morant just did a funny Chris Rock scene from a movie, but seems extremely excited. And then even more than that, you're looking at the fact that where is it? I got a tweet up here that the Memphis Grizzlies have loved him for a long time, and this was not here it is that here is Zach Edey talking about how Memphis has been interested in him since he was a sophomore at Purdue.
And they played their cards well. I had no idea that they were interested, but I mean, they've been on me since like I was a sophomore. They were always a team that was really interested in me and had a lot of belief in me. Like, they were really the only team that believed in me and would have given me a deal my sophomore year. So that's always kind of resonated with me. That's always stuck with me. I was actually disappointed this year that I never heard from them, and then the draft comes up and all of a sudden I'm getting picked. So it caught me off guard, but I mean, I couldn't be happier.
The NBA is getting so fun right now. We're going to break down where he falls on their roster here in 1 second. But one of the things that's so fun about the NBA is that they always say like matchups make fights or whatever. And what's so cool is to see a team just like, the Minnesota Timberwolves just have their way with the Denver Nuggets, and then they go up against the Dallas Mavericks and they don't have that answer and that versatility, that positional versatility to adapt and change. And I think what this gives the Memphis Grizzlies is the ability to, start Zach Edey at center when you're going up against the Denver Nuggets and put Jaren Jackson Jr. as that 4. And then when you play teams that don't have that, you'd play Jackson at the 5 and have Zach Edey coming up off the bench and just locking it down and not letting teams score during that time. But you're looking at a crazy athletic guy, and this just gives Memphis that really ability to adjust their lineup to whatever the needs are. And so let's look at this stacked lineup that even just last year, before his suspension, was finishing second in the West 2 years in a row. And you're looking at just some incredible talent here. Obviously, I think it all starts here with Ja Morant coming back. I think he's coming back with a huge chip on his shoulder. There's been all this talk about how the NBA, all the talent are the foreign-born players, and that's very true. And they've said that the best American-born player is obviously the Timberwolves. It's going to drive me absolutely nuts. Drop it in the comments. He just ate our lunch. They compared him to Michael Jordan. It's going to bug me, but I'm sure Ja Morant hears people say that he's the best player in the league or the best American player and says like, really? Do you remember what I can do? And then they've surrounded him with shooters and having Luke Kennard out of Duke who can just knock down anything. And again, that was the Memphis offense, is a lot of points in transition, a lot of rim running, and then Jaren Jackson Jr. being one of the better defenders in the league who can play at the 4 or the 5. I just think the Memphis Grizzlies have just a 1-2 punch. Desmond Bane still has some years in the tank there. And then looking here, obviously, at who was the other guy I really liked on this team? I think that was But I just think, man, that is Scottie Pippen Jr. There's some high hopes for what he could be. But I think the Memphis Grizzlies are the team to watch this year. Ja Morant is coming back with a vengeance, and the West had better watch out and had better be ready to adapt. Thank you again for huddling up with us, and we will catch you all next time.